Hey everybody, in this video we are going to install n8n on an LXC or LXC container on Proxmox. And I'm going to show you two ways that you can actually do that today. So this is just one of the many ways that you can implement n8n in either your home lab or on your own. There's many other ways that we also cover on my playlist called n8n Building Blocks. So I've got several files here that are basically purposed for creating, number one, templates in Proxmox, whether that's a virtual machine or an LXC container. And I'm going to call them LXC containers from this point forward. One of them creates a template that is a Ubuntu virtual machine. I could have created Debian or any other, but I want Ubuntu when I use a virtual machine, and I like Debian when I'm creating a LXC container. I actually have the template set up where I could choose either Debian 12 or Ubuntu 24.04. Today we're going to create one that's the default, which is Debian 12. So you'll see the scripts out there that say create underscore LXC or create underscore VM. That's the creation of the template. I really only have to do that one time unless I need to create different templates. For example, if I needed to create an unprivileged container and then I need to create a privileged container, I would create a template for each, because once you have the template you can't change that when you're actually cloning it. So right now I've got an unprivileged container already set up out in my Proxmox server, and so now I'm going to use the clone underscore LXC. And you may not have a script like this. This is something that I'm going to be sharing in another episode that's part of my whole Proxmox test lab. It's not quite Terraform, it's not quite Ansible, could be used by Ansible, but it's just basically a shell script that I've created where you can give it a list of commands, like you'll see here, clone LXC shell. I'm actually calling the name that I want to call this server, which is n8n demo, how much memory, how many CPU cores I want to give it, the ID of the machine on Proxmox, and the storage that I've got is named, the actual storage space is called local storage. And then I have my username and the password that I'm going to send it. And yes, I'm going to be deleting this as soon as I'm done with this demo. And also my public SSH key to set it so that as soon as this machine is created, I can go ahead and log in through SSH and begin using it. I don't have to necessarily go to the console. I have to change anything. And it's got pretty much everything installed on it that I want. I will be putting this on my member site at scottmoore.consulting. So if you sign up for even the basic subscription, you'll be able to access these files. And there'll be a document that kind of walks you through the makeup of the code every step of the way and all the arguments and how it works. If you've got a virtual host that you're using for Proxmox, this will save you a lot of time. So let me show you how I'm going to create this machine. I just give it those arguments and I hit enter. And assuming that I don't have a machine already called ID 200 and I'm copying from my template 9100 that I created, as long as those numbers are right, I'm fine. This takes about 3 to 4 minutes to completely run, so I'm going to pause until it's over and then I'll show you the log. Okay, it looks like we're done. I'm going to put on my glasses here. You can't see the very bottom message underneath the IP address, but it basically just says successful, it's complete. Love this script. We don't have to worry about the whole Perl warnings. That's all nothing to worry about. So we've created the machine. Let's go over to my vServer 01, which is my Proxmox server. Okay, here's the server, and as you can see, it's n8n demo. We're in upstate. We've got 2 CPUs, 2 gigs of RAM. We fired it up. Nothing is really going on here. I just always like to come into the console and check to make sure that it accepts the password that I set up from what should be the default, if I can remember it. It's pretty easy. Yeah. Now, and I noticed that it will take just a few seconds to actually initialize the first time that you log into it. But I also set up SSH as well so that I can get in with my public key. And so I can do that from a remote machine as well. So I could get in. I don't have to do the console once I get in there. And then I can just sudo to root if I need to do anything with permissions there. All right. So listen very carefully. If you want to find out what the latest version of Node is, you should go to the source, which is node.js.org, and you would go to the download page and you can see a listing of all of the versions from the latest, greatest, current version, as well as what is the last version under long-term support. That's what LTS stands for. So I would recommend that you get the long-term support because that's going to be the most stable version that you can get. And as of when I'm recording this, like the latest version of n8n, that's going to support version 20 and up. So you're going to be safe doing 22. And the version of npm, the node package manager, is pretty much tied to the version that you download here. However, I'm looking at this page on a Mac, not on my Proxmox server. So it's defaulting to a Mac, and it's giving me instructions on how to install this. I could use npm, I could use brew, which is on here as well, but I'm not on a Mac and I want to install Linux. Well, you would think, well, I just come here and then I install Linux and start looking at this, but what's NVM, right? So you don't want to do that when you're installing it on Debian for the purposes of what we're doing. So I just wanted to show you what the long-term supported, how to find out what the latest LTS is and what the current version was. If you want to get the Debian repository, I would recommend that you go to deb.nodesource.com and you'll see there's the commands that we actually want to run. We want to get the latest version of LTS from them, and then we want to use either apt-get or apt to install this. So this is the instructions that we're going to use to install this. We're back here in our terminal and we are going to run that command. That's going to require a sudo password because it needs root access. And there you go. Okay, through the magic of video editing, we are done almost instantly. Can you believe it? We are done with Node. Don't be surprised if that doesn't take a few minutes for you to run that. Now what we want to do is check our version of Node. So we do node -v. We're on 22.17, which is where we want to be. And we're going to check our version of the Node package manager as well. We're on 10.9.2, which is exactly where we want to be as well. Now it's time to install n8n. So we're going to run sudo npm node package manager. We're going to install -g n8n. There you go. Okay, so we're installed, and I just wanted to make note of all these messages that you're probably going to be seeing of deprecated versions, no longer supported, that kind of stuff. It just means that some of these libraries have had changes. This is still a very stable version of Node.js, and it's going to work fine for us, and I wouldn't worry about it. Eventually, those messages will go away as you continue to upgrade to later versions of Node. And you may find out that you can install a more current version of Node. And if you feel like being froggy like that, I mean, go for it. But right now we're going to stick with this. Okay, so finally, to actually get it to actually start running, all we have to do is type in n8n. And as that starts to run, it's going to run on port 4578 of this machine. You'll notice that it says no encryption found because it's going to be HTTP and not HTTPS, and we haven't set that up. So now it's initializing everything. Let's give it just a second, and then we're actually going to go to HTTP to the name of the actual server. So before we do that, we need to put in a local DNS name in our router. And so what I like to do instead of doing a static IP address is I will do a fixed IP within this router, and I'll just give it an alias, a name, and a local DNS record. And if this does change, I can still SSH into the machine as the DNS name. Okay, so we've got that, we've saved that. So it says right here that it's running on localhost 5678, but we're going to actually access it from the browser from the DNS local name and resolve the IP address instead. So let's do that. Okay, so if we've done it right, we should be able to enter this in HTTP n8ndemo.test.lab port 5678. Does n8n come up? Yes, it does come up, but it's telling us that this is insecure, which we knew we were going to do. This is the warning you're going to get. And it actually said that on the message. But I wanted to show you, if you experience this, it's not a, it's not a failure. Okay, we just need to modify one thing. So let's do that now. So if we actually look at the message that came back in our terminal here, there's actually two things we're dealing with here. First of all, the default permissions in Linux for the config file that's located in this case, home.n8n, which is sort of like a hidden directory. You have to do a different command to list it in the directory. So it's kind of like a hidden folder. That file in there is too permissive. So we need to change it so it's not writable by anybody else except root, and that it's not executable by anybody. So that's the reason for the 644. So we'll take care of that. We're going to set this value here. We want to actually turn this check off because we're just testing this out. So we're going to set this setting in here of n8n enforce settings file permissions to false. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to put that in the config file. And so we're in our home directory. To see the hidden directory, I like to use LSLA or LATR, see everything in a particular order. We see the .n8n directory there. So let's go into that hidden directory, and then we'll see what's in there. We have the config file. That's what we want, and it's 644. So let's schmod it and make it 600. And then let's look at it again, and we can see how we've removed those permissions except for what root has, which is read and write. Okay, so where is this setting going to go? So what we're going to do is we're going to have to create a .environment file. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're going to create a .env. Again, this is going to be a hidden file in this directory, and we're going to put that setting in there. And we're also going to want to put in the n8n secure cookie equals false here, and make sure that you get this right, because if you get one character wrong or put an extra character in here, it's not going to work. So let's go ahead and run n8n again, and let's see what happens. We have n8n, and we have the ability to sign in. Now remember, when you start putting this in and you sign up, you're going to need to get a license file from n8n. It's free, but this is the first step to that. So let's go ahead and sign in. Notice that it enforces good passwords. Okay, you're going to have to answer a couple of questions here. Just going to put something in here. And then you're going to enter an email, and it's going to send you a license key. We're going to skip that for now because I don't want that. But here you have a working version of n8n, and you can begin to start creating a workflow right away. Now, this is by default. It has installed a SQLite database on your machine, and that's what you're going to be running on. I want to show you one other way that's even faster to get started in if you're using Proxmox. It's also a LXC Container, but it's a pre-built script that you can run in one command if you don't want to deal with this kind of stuff. So let's do that now. There's a really cool site out there. It's called it's Proxmox VE helper scripts, and those of you who've been working in Proxmox for a while, you probably have already seen this before, but if you haven't, you're new to the home lab, you can come out here and they actually have pre-made scripts. They're actually bash shell scripts that you're kind of running remotely, which incurs a little trust there, but you can come in here and do a search for n8n, and they actually have a script for n8n. So let's do that. Now, the only part that you need to know about is some of these scripts are a little older. So this is from last year, mid-year, but LXC containers, when you contain them, they're maintainable just like you would a Linux VM. They're not necessarily locked in, so you can, SSH in and do anything that you would normally do to a virtual machine. And you'll see this command down here at the bottom. If you want to see what's going on with that, you can just highlight that entire URL there and copy it and bring it up here. That actually takes you to the GitHub page where this is at, and you can take a look at the code. So remember, you're running code remotely, and this is shell code, shell script, so you'll want to look at it and see what's doing. It's not doing a whole lot. We're actually going to run that in the Proxmox host, and with this one command that's on the page, we're going to be able to install that. So we're basically going to just copy this. We're going to come back to our terminal, and we're going to run that command. It's not going to take it long, and what this is going to do is this is going to instantiate an instance, and I actually already have one of these running already. I have a container, and you saw me just build one, but I can run this as many times and create as many of these as I want. Still have to do that whole registration that we did. But we're going to go ahead and run this. We'll go ahead and just accept the default settings, and it's actually running on a Debian 12 instance. It's an unprivileged container. It's going to give it 6 gigs of disk space, 2 cores, and 2 gigs of RAM, which you can actually modify after the fact if you want to. You can't change it from privileged to or unprivileged to privileged, but you can change all the other hardware settings. So it's going to go ahead and give it a container ID of 102 because that's not being used right now. So let's go ahead and let it do its thing, and then we'll check it out in the Proxmox server. One of the things we definitely want to do is install it on the local storage. That is an SSD drive that's on Proxmox. So to use the local storage, this is the one that we want to do. NFS is where I keep all the big files, like if I'm going to keep templates and stuff like that. So the template storage, NFS storage, local storage for the container that I'm actually using, because that's going to be faster access, and that's what we want. So we're going to go ahead and let that run, and we'll go to the Proxmox server now. Okay, 104 is my current n8n container that I'm already running stuff on, but 102 is the new container that's being created right now by this script, and it's calling it the same thing, but each one of these are isolated, and so I can create a different local DNS name that I can reference for each one of these. I can call one n8n.test.lab and n8n2.test.lab, doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and we'll let that finish running. So we're back up, and I know what the IP address of this machine is, so what we're going to do is go back to the router and look it up, and we can see it here. It's got a different IP address. That's okay. We're going to give this one a different name. We're going to call this n8n2. We're going to give it a fixed IP address, local DNS name of n8n2.test.lab. Now that we've done that, let's go see if we can bring it up. And there we have it. So we have n8n running here on port 5678, and we could go and do that same setup again. So with one command, we've gotten n8n up and running. Now again, it's not the latest version, so once we actually get signed in, we're going to want to SSH back into the machine, and we're going to want to update n8n. Before we can actually SSH into the machine remotely, there's two things that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to reset the root password. I don't know what the default password was for the V8 helper scripts, but I don't need to know. I'm going to show you a command where if you ever forget, you can go in and use this command and reset the root password for any LXC container if you're on the Proxmox host in a terminal. And we also need to turn on SSH. It's pretty common for Debian templates to be turned off by default, but we're going to enable it and restart SSH. We'll be good to go. So if you ever need to get in there, you can just type in pct enter, that's the name of the command, and then you want to know the ID of the container that you created. So once you type that in, that puts you in as root immediately on that machine, and you'll see it change from vserver01 to n8n. Now that we're in there, we can set the password like we normally would for root. Now we know what our password is, and now what we're going to have to do is change etc ssh sshd config. And so once we're in there, there's going to be two things that we're going to make sure that are enabled. The first thing is going to be permitting root login, and it's got prohibit password, and we're going to actually change that to yes. And then we're going to come down and find authentication to be yes. We're going to save that. We're going to come out. And then we're going to run system control restart SSH. That's pretty much all you get. Should be reset, should allow root access. Let's go to our other machine and see if we can remote in now. And does it let us in? So now we're in, and we can update n8n. Here's a few commands that we're going to use to actually do that. I'm going to show you, and since I'm already in as root, I'm not going to use sudo, but normally I would use sudo to do this. Just want to make sure that everything is as updated as possible with apt. We're going to clean out any of the node modules under the library. We're going to start with a whole fresh batch when we upgrade. And then we're going to use npm to clean any cache, and npm to actually install the latest. Now, why didn't we use apt? I believe it's because of the way that this was actually installed originally from the template. And so this is how you get the latest version of n8n. And then if we do this correctly and it actually works, we'll check the version, Once again, you see some of the warnings that pop up as it's showing you that some things are deprecated. It's totally okay. Okay, now we just need to check what version we're on, and right now that is the latest version as of when we made the video, and that matches. So we're in good shape. At this point, you could reboot the server, but what I would recommend is that you just run these two commands to restart the service, and here's how you do that. Restart system control, restart n8n, and restart the daemon reload. Now that is going to make n8n take a few seconds or so to get back up, and you might see a cannot do a get, like the API will cause you a little error there, but then it will pop up here in a few seconds and it'll come back. Then you'll have the latest version of n8n running, and it's back up. So it's really important to note that even though this is up, you're still dealing with a SQLite database. There's probably going to be additional environment variables and configuration settings that you're going to want to make over time as you use it. This is just a good way for you to get started, but there's going to be things that you're going to want to do to make this something that's more permanent. And that's where I didn't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to show you that this is pretty easy to get installed either way. Whether you're doing it on Proxmox or you have your own virtual private server out there that you're running this on. It's a really cool tool to get started with. And if you really want to take a deeper dive in this and you want to do some more with this, you can always check out my page at scottmoore.consulting. Sign up for the basic plan. You'll get a lot of information that way. And we're going to be putting out more videos as well. Other ways to install this. Maybe you think, well, hey, this is just too complicated. I don't want to do this. Well, the easiest way to get started with n8n is just go use the cloud version, just sign up with on the n8n website. If you do sign up and use my link, I've got a description because I'm an affiliate with n8n, and if you do sign up for their plan, I do get a small commission for that at no additional cost to you, but it really helps out the channel. So if this has helped you, and maybe this just isn't for you, but you want to do the cloud version, that's an option for you as well. And also check out the playlist that we've got called n8n Building Blocks, where I show you how to install it other ways that may be something that works for you. If you ever need to reach out to me, I'm very easy to find. I'm on most social media networks. You can scan that QR code, or you can check me out on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter X. You can also shoot me a quick email at heyscott@smcjournal.com. It'd be great if you liked this video and gave me a subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it helps me know what you want to see next. So what other requests do you have about me showing you some stuff in n8n? We're eventually going to get to everything, but I want to prioritize it to your feedback. So I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.